talk about the New Orleans Saints. The New Orleans Saints went out there and they fired Dennis Allen. He did not finish out the season. They were the second team from the previous season to go out there and fire their head coach. The New York Jets were the first. So you would think that they would have had more time to go out there and fully prepare to interview coaches and bring a coach in early in the hiring cycle. That has not been the case. The New Orleans Saints are still without a head coach. Now, all the signs are pointing towards Kellen Moore, but I do feel like they are settling for Kellen Moore. And this is not me saying that Kellen Moore is going to be a terrible head coach. He's a fine coach in this league. He was a solid offensive coordinator with the Dallas Cowboys. He had some okay moments with the Los Angeles Chargers, and he's been a very good offensive coordinator this season with the Philadelphia Eagles. But this is the same Saints organization that had conversations with Aaron Glenn, who was a former player with this organization, and they had talks with Joe Brady. Now, Joe Brady is a former coach for LSU. He was a part of that staff that helped Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and all those guys on the LSU roster win a national championship. He's going to be a phenomenal head coach one day, by the way. That would be the ideal fit. The problem is this. The Saints organization has been ran to the ground because of Mickey Loomis, the man that you see on your screen right now. This is a general manager with the New Orleans Saints. He went out there, he hired Dennis Allen. When Sean Payton wanted to step down and basically retire, and he came back the next season to be the head coach with the Denver Broncos, he saw the writing on the wall. Mickey Loomis did not want to rebuild, and neither did Sean Payton. That's why he walked away. When I look at Mickey Loomis, it comes a point in time to where you go out there and you run it back every single year to where you have to give up, strip everything down, and fully rebuild. And the Saints have not done that. They have been a middle-of-the-road team, off and on, with Dennis Allen as the head coach. They'll go 7-10, and then they'll go out there and possibly only win 5 games like how they did this previous season. That is going to hurt you. Now, Dennis Allen should have never been the head coach to begin with. The only reason he got that spot is because he was a very good defensive coordinator for many years underneath Sean Payton, and they wanted to keep some type of Sean Payton influence within the building. And how do you go about that? Well, you let Dennis Allen be the head coach, and you have Pete Carmichael calling offensive plays. And Pete Carmichael was terrible. So the coaching hasn't been there with the Saints when they haven't been fully healthy. And I do believe in that first year when he was a head coach, it was a chance for that Saints team to make the NFL playoffs. And if that wasn't a chance for it, I know when they first brought in Derek Carr, they had the chance to make the playoffs, especially playing in this division. They lost a tiebreaker to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But Dennis Allen was such a terrible coach with clock management and not making adjustments. He's a good defensive mind, but as a head coach, he's awful. And we saw this with the then Oakland Raiders, which brings in another question. Why would you hire him as a head coach to begin with? I understand the Sean Payton influence. That is on Mickey Loomis. And then when you look at it from this situation, they have one of the oldest rosters in the NFL as I record this video. And on top of that, they're over the cap. Now, every single year, even dating back to 2018, the New Orleans Saints have struggled with cap management because of Mickey Loomis. He will go out there and he will give guys enormous contracts, like how he signed Derek Carr to a big money deal, the same with Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas a long time ago. But this is the worst that it has ever been. They are $70 million over the salary cap. $70 million. And you just can't go out there and cut Derek Carr. That's easier said than done. And Derek Carr, he's not going to take a pay cut. He's already come out and he's already said this. And Derek Carr dealt with a lot of injuries this season. He missed a lot of time. He had an oblique injury that he suffered against the Kansas City Chiefs. He had a hand injury that knocked him out for the last couple of games of the regular season. And when I look at Derek Carr, he's not a bad quarterback. But this is how I really feel about Derek Carr. He's more so of a quarterback that a team can bring in when they have star wide receivers, a very good running back, very good offensive line, and a very good defense. That's when you bring in Derek Carr. When the Saints are fully healthy, you can make the argument that they have that, but their offensive line is a major issue. They have more problems than the quarterback position. And when you look at Derek Carr, they do win more games with him, but they're not beating elite level competition with Derek Carr. So you're stuck with Derek Carr. You could say go out there and cut him. It's going to make your cap space even worse. He's not bad enough to move off of, but he's not great enough to sign for another 4 to 5 year contract deal. So I don't look at Derek Carr as the answer long term with the Saints. Hopefully Spencer Rattler is the answer. But Derek Carr, he will go out there, he will put up good numbers, but he's not going to be the sole reason why you win. They need to address more problems with this roster. And I don't trust that Mickey Loomis is that guy, because look at how bad the contracts are with this roster. And you can't go out there in free agency and bring in more help at the edge rushing position. You can't bring in more help at the offensive line position because you're handicapped by the cap situation. And I trust that Mickey Loomis will go out there and find a way to restructure deals, kick the can down the road. And when it's time for them to go out there and fish for free agents, they're going to bring some guys in, not high value free agents, because they're going to be asking for a lot of money, but he's going to find a way to manipulate the cap. He has done this since 2018, but that's the problem. Every time he does it, the ownership comes out and she's happy about it. But you haven't made the playoffs since 2020. And this is a bad division. This is one of the worst divisions in the NFL. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have ran this division. As soon as Tom Brady came to the division, he won a Super Bowl. And they have been on a playoff run since then. You have the Carolina Panthers, who this team lost to this year. Essentially the game that got Dennis Allen fired. And you have the Atlanta Falcons. Their future seems brighter than the New Orleans Saints because you have one of the oldest rosters, and your quarterback situation for the next few years is still a question mark. And we could talk about Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler has a lot of good moments on the field, but he shouldn't have been a starter this season. They should have went out there with Jake. You don't want to rush Spencer Rattler into a bad situation, and that's what they did against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. In the first half, he looked solid. In the second half, not so much. And on short week's notice, Dennis Allen set this kid up for failure against the Denver Broncos, one of the top defenses in this league, on a short week with no Rashid Shaheed, no Chris Olave. So he's going out there with the number 3 and number 4 wide receivers to try to help him out. And he's a rookie. He didn't get the first team reps. That went to Derek Carr. But Jake has been in the league longer than him. Let him go out there. Let him deal with that. Take that pressure off of Spencer Rattler and let him develop. Spencer Rattler did have good moments this year. Hopefully he can be the franchise quarterback, but there's also a question mark next to his name. And when the Saints are fully healthy, they have talent. I'm not going to come on here and say that they're one of the worst teams in the NFL because they don't have any talent. Chris Olave, I like him a lot. Can he stay healthy enough? That's the problem. And it's not like he's dealing with shoulder injuries or a knee injury or a foot injury. He's dealing with concussions. And this is a repeated offense now with Chris Olave. He's getting hit and he's getting blown up a lot. Now, Derek Carr can help him out by not throwing him into coverage. But it's a lot of times you look at Chris Olave, it's just freak accidents on the field. It was one concussion in particular. Earlier in his career, he catches the football, his head hits the turf, he's concussed. That's not on Derek Carr. And he suffered a concussion at The Ohio State University. So you have to worry about that. Rashid Shaheed missed majority of this season, dealing with a torn meniscus. He's one of the best deep threats that you can have. But all of these offensive weapons for those first 2 games, they benefited from being coached up by Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak is no longer here. He is now the offensive coordinator with the Seattle Seahawks. So going out there and hopefully hiring Kellen Moore can help out the development with some of these wide receivers. But even when Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed went down, it was a blessing in disguise for MVS. Marquez Valdez-Scantling came in and he looked very good with Derek Carr. And I find that interesting. Derek Carr has never had the chemistry with Chris Olave. But these deep threats, he has the chemistry with them. He has the chemistry with Rashid Shaheed going deep down the field. He has the chemistry with Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who was a free agent who they brought in the middle of the season. On 19 catches, he had 411 receiving yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. He averaged 21 yards a catch. I like the tight ends that they have. You have Foster and you have Juwan Johnson. They're solid. They're not top tier receiving tight ends, but they're both good in their own right. Now, the offensive line, it's a bit of an issue here. Ryan Ramczyk missed all of this season, dealing with a knee injury. Will he be able to come back? I don't know. But the last time we saw him play, he was a top tier tackle in this league. I don't know if he will ever be able to come back and return to form, because usually when you take time off as an offensive lineman, you're never the same. Look at Dave Bakhtiari, who dealt with a similar situation with his knee. He was never able to play again for the Green Bay Packers. Now, you do have Trevor Penning. He's more so of a guard than a tackle to me because he's a better run blocker than he is a pass blocker. He did look better this previous season than he has in years prior, but I still don't see him as a franchise tackle, and he gets a lot of penalties. Talasay Fuaga, I like him a lot at the tackle position. That's why I selected him in the first round. I think there's a lot of upside there. And you have Eric McCoy at the center position. So the offensive line, you still need to build this line in the NFL draft through the guard positions and through the tackle positions to help out Derek Carr or Spencer Rattler long term, whoever your quarterback is going to be. The running back position, Alvin Kamara, he is getting older, but he is still a very good running back to have. And you look at Kendre Miller, he just can't stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, he will be a very good option as a backup with Alvin Kamara. But that's the only problem with Kendre Miller. And I look at Jamal Williams, get him off this roster as soon as possible. And another reason why Dennis Allen deserves to be fired, they had Jamal Williams on kick return duty against the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a return man. One of your slower players at the skill position is a return man. Make it make sense. This is what the Saints have turned into. When they had all those great years with Drew Brees, and you had good stints with Michael Thomas, and all those guys are able to come in and help you make deep playoff runs over and over again, and look at the Saints now. This is what happens when you kick the can down the road repeatedly. And it's more than just the offensive end with things. Their defense is very old. Tyrann Mathieu had a very good season this year. The problem is Tyrann Mathieu is going to be 33 years old when next season starts. He had 2 forced fumbles, 3 interceptions, 7 pass deflections, and 47 solo tackles. How much longer will he play? Demario Davis is still a solid linebacker, but you have seen the drop-off year after year. He's not the same linebacker that he was 2 to 3 years ago. Cameron Jordan, the last time that Cameron Jordan went out there and had double-digit sacks in the season was in 2021, and they gave him a 3-year extension. Cameron Jordan is one of the highest paid players with the New Orleans Saints. And he only gave you 4 sacks this season and an interception. And he's an aging veteran. Great locker room guy. Great for the Saints community. That doesn't mean that you go out there and you give him a 3-year extension worth that much money. You have Carl Granderson, just the season before, led the team in sacks. This year was a down year. 5.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. You brought over Chase Young, 5.5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. But you see the moves the Saints are making. They'll go out there, they'll bring in a name like Tyrann Mathieu many years ago. They'll bring in a name like Chase Young this previous offseason. That is for teams that are trying to go out there and make deep playoff runs. And when they know that they're going to be a playoff contender with the roster that they have, the Saints haven't been that since 2020. So why are you going out there making moves like that? And I look at ownership. I believe that she has done a very good job with her entire tenure with the New Orleans Saints. You hire people, you let them do your job. I have no problem with that. But at the same time, when you look at Mickey Loomis, he's the longest tenured general manager. You can say Jerry Jones, but he employs himself because he's the owner. This is a different situation. She employs Mickey Loomis. He's been terrible over the last 5 years. It's time to let go. It's time to bring in a brand new general manager that can fix everything with the New Orleans Saints. It's going to take some time. But having Mickey Loomis here right now, the Saints will never be bad enough to go out there and have the first overall pick. And they will never be good enough underneath him to win a Super Bowl. I know that he went out there and he hired Sean Payton and they won the Super Bowl and they have a special connection with him because of what happened after Hurricane Katrina. But it's time to go out there and move on. Mickey Loomis can be executive vice president. You can move him into a different direction in the front office. As a general manager, it's not working out. You can even have him in the scout room because he's drafted very well. It's just managing the cap. He's been terrible. He has a place in this league, but not as a general manager. And I want to say a lot of nice things about Mickey Loomis because in the past, the man was amazing. He was ahead of his time with Sean Payton. They had something special when they won that Super Bowl. But we're far removed from that. And the Saints had something special if the referees were to go out there and call the pass interference play on the Rams, but they didn't. And when Drew Brees when he first announced that he wasn't going to come back, that he was going to retire, they should have told Sean Payton, look, we're going to go in a different direction. We need to get younger. They have young pieces mixed in with a lot of old pieces, and it's just not working out. One move that I really love that Mickey Loomis did was moving on from Marshawn Lattimore. Marshawn Lattimore dealt with a lot of injuries with the Saints. They were not in a situation to make the playoffs. Hell, you only won 5 games this season. You ship him off for a mid-round pick to the Washington Commanders. Those are the type of moves that they should have been making in the past. But it seems like it's too little too late. And you have good defensive backs still. Like I mentioned, Tyrann Mathieu. You have Kool-Aid McKinstry. There's a lot of potential there. I like Alontae Taylor a lot. He's a lanky, long corner. And you have Paulson Adebo. Now, before he got injured against the Denver Broncos, Paulson Adebo was having a terrible year. He was holding a lot. But at the same time, when you have a cornerback like him, why is he matched up with the fastest wide receivers on the opposing team? If you see that he's dealing with a lot of penalties against Darnell Mooney, he basically lost in that game against the Falcons because it was a pass interference play. It pushed the Falcons right into field goal range, and they walked off with a field goal win. Why are you putting Paulson Adebo on the fastest wide receivers? That's another coaching flaw by Dennis Allen. It's the attention to details. Have him on another wide receiver. Have him on a bigger body wide receiver. A guy that's going to go out there and run some slants, run some post routes down the field. Not a guy that's going to hit him with a double move. And that's what Darnell Mooney did. And we saw that in the Kansas City Chiefs matchup also. They were getting a lot of cheap plays down the field on Paulson Adebo. He has to be better moving forward, but there is still a lot of potential with him in this secondary because I do remember just a year before this season, he was a solid cornerback. The Saints have talent. But when you look at this cap space and what the future could really look like with the Saints, this is one of the worst jobs you could take as a head coach. And I do think that Kellen Moore can have success with the Saints, but it's time to have that conversation about Mickey Loomis. He has ran this team into the ground. And he did not mean to run the team to the ground because he wanted to contend every single year. But unfortunately, that's not how the NFL works. You have to go out there and eventually get younger. I want to see Spencer Rattler be the starting quarterback with the Saints sooner than later, but right now, they should stick with Derek Carr. Go out there with the aging pieces that you have, get over this contract situation, bring in another general manager. It's going to take some time, and see what you have with those younger players after these older players leave the roster. And you can't trade these contracts either. These are not tradable contracts. No one's going to go out there and give you a draft pick for a Cameron Jordan. No one's going to give you a draft pick for some of the other older players on this roster. They can't make the impact that other players can for those respective teams. And it's going to take a lot to really go out there and try to get underneath the cap within the next couple of months. So Mickey Loomis has a tall task in front of him. But let me know in the comment section below, how do you feel about the New Orleans Saints and who should be their head coach moving forward? Like I said, all the signs are pointing towards Kellen Moore. I'm not going to say for sure that he's going to be their head coach. I know that that's the hot report right now, that he's a leading candidate, but I've seen this in the past. Guys will go out there, they will take the job, and just a couple of days later, they'll say, you know what, never mind, I'll go back to my respective team. Until he signs that contract, I'm skeptical of it, but it seems like he will be the next head coach with the New Orleans Saints. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, want each and every last one of you guys stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for watching the video, guys. God bless. Peace.